All right. Hey, everyone. I'm doing the kickoff because we're doing it on the Tuck channel, but this is the last time I'm actually going to be facilitating this live because we have a great facilitator here, Gene Van Horn, who's going to talk to us and lead us through a conversation today about AI and project management. Awesome. Thanks, Gene. You take it.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's a privilege to invite everyone here to this LinkedIn Live. The subject is so important, so timely. Many people are thinking AI is going to destroy industries. And in fact, we have a report here that is from the Gartner Incorporated, the company that does so many predictions on technology. They say by 2030, 80% of the work that project managers do today will be automated by AI. It makes you think maybe the project managers won't be necessary, but we know that is far from the truth. And that's one of the reasons we're here today. We want to become relevant. We want to stay relevant. And Alex and Amerivis are experts on how to manage, how to juggle this new technology, make it benefit you and help your technical expertise, your wisdom, your judgment stand out. So we look forward to this conversation. And I'm going to start it off with allowing Amerivis to give her introduction of herself. Would you please?
Oh, sure. Yes. My name is Amerivis Lopez Cobb. I am a lifelong transformation architect from the streets of North Philadelphia to the fabulous city of Las Vegas, Nevada to Seattle, Washington. I grew up in tech project management. Dare I say, I got my PMP back in 2002 when the PMBOK was probably a lot thicker than it is today and didn't have all the agile concepts. But I'm an author, a speaker, and a lifelong lover of learning. And that's why I'm here today. And I love AI.
And we have to mention your organization, Ascend and
Ascend
Transcend.
and transcend. Yes, ascend and transcend. That's right. Business consulting, speaking, workshops, especially workshops that help you provide psychological safety for yourself and to guard yourself, your personal infrastructure, and then leadership development training on how to do the redesign of psychological safety for all of those that you are entrusted to lead, because it is a very, very, very important responsibility as a leader to lead others into
We love those wings too.
into not
We
just
love those
profit, but
wings.
also humanity. So
Wonderful,
thank you for that
wonderful.
reminder.
Now, we turn to you, Alex Tuck, in the wonderful area of Vermont. There's like 30 inches of snow just a few miles from you right now. So we make the setting of the winter setting, right?
Yeah, I cannot wait to visit my family in Virginia in a couple days here. The sun and 60 degrees sounds amazing. It's a little too early for snow here. But yeah, thank you so much, Gene and Amerivis, for joining me. I'm so excited about this conversation. AI is so important in the industry that we're working in right now. It's funny you mentioned the PMBOK, the old school PMBOK. I was trained on. I got my PMP on the 5th edition, and I was just at PMI Global this week, and they just announced the 8th edition. So get ready for it, everybody. There's so much talk about AI there. So yeah, my name's Alex Tuck, live in Underhill, Vermont on an 8-acre farm. We've got a bunch of chickens, a couple of goats, and I also have four human kids, 4, 6, 8, and 10-year-old. Live here with my wife, and I'm very fortunate to also be able to run a company remotely here, a remote first Tuck Consulting Group. We have about 60 project management consultants, all distributed across the US. And we help small businesses and nonprofits further their mission through expert project management. So whether it's strategic work or outsourced project management, we come in and we help our clients further their missions that way. So anyway, I'm really excited about our conversation today.
That's really well explained. So turning to you first, Alex, with the question I'm going to present to both of you as the moderator here. We are quite aware that AI is automating a lot of processes. There are going to be project managers attending. Some in the audience or some who will look at this later are in other industries that are being infiltrated by AI in a good way, and many tasks are being automated, simplified. But can you talk to us a little bit about that free capacity that AI will allow us to have mentally, psychologically, emotionally, to do more and better work?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is I could go so many different directions with this. I think there's three different ways that AI can impact, these companies, right? One is that AI can take over most of the work that humans are doing, and they can assume that, these agents are just going to come over and take over everything, right? Like that's not realistic, but that's what some of these companies are thinking, right? So that's one. The other thing is that it frees up some time so that you can maybe run more things, run more projects, do more work that way. And then there's a third bucket that I like to lean into, which is that I think AI will free up capacity to increase the quality of work. So I think we'll just be able to do better work in that extra time that we have. And in fact, like I think my prediction, right? So I think I polled our team, and our estimates probably 70 to 80% of all the work that we used to do 2 years ago is not going to be necessary, not going to be done by humans in the next 5 years, maybe even sooner. And so I think that project managers are going to start to get to move into this role of like what we've called project leaders. And we're not the first people to say that, but like it's more about project leadership or even operational leadership. I think that that's all going to get melded together. And we're going to start seeing the people that are really good at the emotional intelligence, the folks that can facilitate conversations, the ones that can negotiate really well. I think those people are going to start moving into what we call project leadership, project management, because they're not going to have to take notes, like create status reports, figure out how the Gantt chart's going to move, level things, that all that stuff that is like either boring or technically out of reach for a lot of folks. They're not going to have to worry about that stuff. So the people that are really good at like motivating team members are just going to be able to come in and like run a project or run operations, and rely on AI to support them in that.
That's really interesting. I can see it really incorporates the human element. So humans are still in the picture big time.
Yeah.
So Amaris, going to you, you have an interesting take on that. What we just heard from Alex there. What do you see as the human advantage?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
How are we going to maintain that?
I someone who I am my mission, dare I say, is to help reduce and prevent bias in technology. So of course I'm going to have a different lens on the ethical side or the AI ethics side. And I love what you said about project leadership, Alex, because one of the reasons why I fell in love with project management was because that's how strategy got executed, was through projects. And so I think it does. I agree with you 100%. It will allow project managers to focus more on not just the human side of it, the relationship side of it, but also the strategy, how do we approach things more strategically. And as AI starts to automate all the technical tasks, and how leaders should, from my perspective, how leaders can use some of that freed up time. I think of AI like as a super fast assistant, and it can handle most of the repetitive work, just like you said, in seconds. And it frees us up to focus on what only humans can do. And some of that is judgment, fairness, and collaboration. And I don't mean judgment like in a out of work context. I mean it judgment in terms of discernment, right? So I think of ethical judgment, like raising Superman, like Mo Gaudat, and I don't know if I'm saying his last name, Gaudat. He says intelligence has no moral direction by itself, and it's like raising a child with superpowers. So if we teach it to help people, then we're raising Superman. But if we ignore ethics, then we risk creating a supervillain, like, I don't know, Lex Luthor. So I think that leaders, I always try to like figure out like analogies that go with some of this stuff, and I'm a big Marvel movie fanatic. I love all the Marvel movies. And I think leaders, we have to ask
You're using DC characters.
and I love DC characters too, but I also I have another one for the Marvel, but we'll save that for another talk. But this one, I think that leaders, we should ask ourselves that simple question of like, what would I want my daughter, my son, my niece, my nephew, whomever, to be on the receiving end of an AI decision that I'm improving. So fairness in choosing the right road. And when AI gives you back more time, then let's use it to decide how the team should use this power, right? It's like being handed the keys to a fast car. The real question isn't how fast it goes. The question is, are we on the right road? Are we following the right rules? Are we hurting anyone along the way? So I see it as the time saved by AI should be used to build agility, teamwork, and the ability to replan quickly. Because even when the AI is running through your meeting notes and spitting out the Gantt charts and all that, we still need to have that analysis of, did it hallucinate? Did it give us something that was realistic? Are we on the right path? And we can have developers assigned to teams that feel like they might be able to call something out, or project team members, whatever their role is. But again, my psychological safety lens, we have to have psychological safety embedded into the teams. I think the project managers who are going to have some time saved can now use some more of that free time to adopt more psychological safety practices to the extent that they can within their decision-making authority. And maybe even teach it upwards and downwards and across the whole organization to folks who are receptive, if that makes sense.
And, that gets into some of the design principles that you talk about, Amaris, really well. So what ethical inputs need to be in place as we kind of ride this AI horse? What would you say?
I mean, I think one of the biggest ethical inputs would be, from my perspective, and some of the data that I'm seeing, is allowing the voices that are impacted the most the opportunity to sit at the table where decisions are being made about what is being done, so that they can weigh in. Because I think that the people who often slip through the cracks have a better lens at being able to make sure that risks are being called out and mitigated, and those kinds of things. And I want to make sure, and I'm being mindful of time, that I give that Tuck has an opportunity to also address that. But I think that the biggest thing for me right now is I don't see enough of the people who are affected in the decision-making room. So I see a lot of just come out of the room and they say, do as we say, not as we do, or just do as you're told. And I think that we're doing a disservice to the people who have lots of great ideas on how to make sure that we don't deploy AI that is causing harm. So, like, for example, excluding, of course, I'm a woman, I'm going to use the woman example. I read a study that they're excluding women. They were using an AI in Texas that was excluding women because they were putting on their resumes that they were part of ERGs, the employee resource groups. So if they put vice chair of the women's resource group, the AI was scanning out the resume because it saw the word woman on there.
Wow.
And so maybe if there were women on the governance committee, right, they would call out and be like, hey, did we look at that possibility that would harm or exclude certain groups of people? And that's just one example.
Exactly. That sounds great. And I turn the message or the mic to Alex now, because you had in mind some operational safeguards, guardrails as we employ the AI. How would you break that down for the audience?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a good question. No, and just to comment on that, like the ethics of AI use are just, it's so important, right? Like it's so very important to consider. And we actually, I was just pulling up a deck that we pulled together, because like there's many ethical considerations for AI, but like the ones that are really important to our organization that we emphasize with everyone is like AI should always enhance human well-being, right? Like that should be like the first thing, right? And to your point, Amervis, a system that does not support that does not enhance human well-being. There should always be human oversight, period, no matter what. Never let the AI, always human in the loop. Everyone should be transparent about how they're using AI in everything they're doing. And then obviously the data privacy should be protected. So like, I just wanted to call that out, because I think, having these AI ethical frameworks in place is one of those guardrails that you're describing, Gene, that we put in place. The other things that we do, like we have an acceptable use policy, and we encourage everyone else to do an AI acceptable use policy in their firms, no matter how small. I mean, we're a pretty small company, and we still make sure that we've always had an acceptable use policy. Here's how we're going to use technology. Here's how we're going to use mobile, all these different things. We're going to make sure antivirus is here. but you know, how does AI play into that? And so like we actually define things like what tools are inbound, how can you use those tools, how is data labeled, and can client data be put in this tool or not put in this tool? Like all of those things we outline for our team, and then we want to make sure that everyone understands that that exists always. And so that's a really important thing. And the last piece of the framework, sort of those guardrails that we put in place, we also use prompt libraries internally. And that one, you might say, like, what does that have to do with guardrails? And but the truth is that by having these prompt libraries, these good examples, these hows of how we're using AI across the organization in a productive and consistent way, allows for people to copy and paste things like, okay, here's how we dealt with bias in this transcription service, or here's how we do X or Y. And so people can borrow different prompts or different chunks of prompts to allow for creating these guardrails to prevent these biases that exist.
And in our conversations before, Alex, you had mentioned bias checks before automation. What does that mean?
Yeah. Bias checks before automation. Yeah. So like, we always like we use a recruiting agent, right, as an example internally, right? And Mervis was talking about this earlier, and it's like, all right, we try to make sure that like we know what we expect, what we expect to be the outcome is actually the outcome. So if we put someone that is brown or black into our recruiter agent, and then it gives them a 76 instead of a 98, even though they look consistent, right? Otherwise, it's like, what is going on here? Why does that happen? And it might be things like, okay, where are you recruiting from, right? This person is from some area that is, X or Y, or they're from an urban area, or they're from a southern area, or things like that. And so we really try to make sure that we're factoring all of those things. Or someone that like maybe got a GED or went to DeVry or something like that instead of going to like Princeton, right? Like that might be a bias that we're trying to fix for. And so we have really good examples of consultants who do come from diverse backgrounds as good examples of what the kind of person that we're trying to recruit, as well as someone that might be the traditional McKinsey, blah, 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 like those, we want to have this diversity in our recruitment process. So, so those are some examples of how we're doing that.
And if I
this is your call. Yes.
Because I just want to tag on to what you said. And it just reminds me, like, in all the projects I've managed, and you said, how do we check and make sure before deployment, before it goes live? So a lot of the projects that I've ever managed, or that I've been governed, or I've had oversight of, because I've managed, $95 million capital project portfolios in my career. So I've seen a lot, and I've had a lot of lessons learned. We often miss the point of what the business process should be that the technology supports, right? So I think about, a lot of times we're like, oh, just roll out the tool, roll out the tech, and we'll figure out if it works later after it's live, and you realize, holy crap, we have a bunch of defects and we have a bunch of requirements that weren't met. And so I think of it like even more important with AI than with any other technology, because it does affect so many lives, is that I think that we as leaders need to do, or should focus on making sure that we do that, not just the testing against the skeleton requirements or the skeleton business process, but creating test scenarios that will fail on purpose by design, so that we can see, is it really harming anybody? So those test cases that we go, we want them to fail so we can see if we need to go back and fix it before it gets rolled out. And a lot of times we don't spend the time up front or the money up front to do it, because we think faster, better, cheaper, right? That was what was ingrained into our heads, was faster, better, cheaper, faster, better, cheaper. And but then we have the time to rework it and fix it later. And we're at a point where I think it was the Harvard Kleinman Berkman Center or something did a study that said that 18 to 24 months, if we don't address what is happening with bias in AI and those types of things that are going to be problematic later, it's going to be harder and harder to unravel. And I think Europe is doing a better job than the United States at putting in some guardrails around some of that so that it can be checked, like the GDPR was so huge for us for privacy purposes, right? Same kind of idea. That was all. You made me think of that. Both of you made me think of that when you were.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Mervis, to that point. Sorry, Gene. No, I would love to just there. It's so hard to train the models to do some of this stuff that you're describing, Mervis. And what's so interesting is sometimes it comes down to like which model are you using, because like some of these models, like Anthropic is really trying their best to like create these ethical models, and they're not perfect, but they're at least talking about it and trying to get there a little bit faster, right? And so it might be that you lean on one of these other models that does a better job, like recognizing bias and addressing the bias, or at least listening to you in the prompts, right? Like, so
Right.
you know, that's the hardest thing, is just figuring out which one to use.
Yeah, that's such a good point from both of you, because many people assume this conversation is going to be only focused on, okay, our extra time that we have and how we can use it, which is so important. But I like how you both are scrutinizing, what is this AI going to do? Which one should we choose before you actually deploy it? So training the models, you mentioned something there, Alex, about through your prompt. Can you break that down for listeners? There may be folks who don't understand what it means to put the prompt in that makes the AI start to develop different ways of approaching things. Can you break that down?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I could talk about this for an entire hour, right? But I'll actually in the comments after we're done with this, I'll drop in sort of a framework that we have for prompt engineering, where first you start with the context of like, hey, this is the thing that you're gonna try to do here, Mr. Agent or Miss Agent, right? Like, you're going to function as like a marketing analyst that, has this perspective and then you're going to want to talk about like the sources of things. And then, you want to give it the context of like, hey, make sure that you are checking your bias and identify what biases you think are going to happen, et cetera. Right. So like you can basically tell the AI what goals you want to have, and some of the language works and some of it doesn't. And so that's where that testing that Mervis was describing, where it's like, okay, let's test what we expect, the positives, and then like let's turn around and like also test the negatives and the edge cases and stuff,
Right.
to really make sure that we understand what we're doing. And there's other components of the prompt, but I think that like really giving it the context and the guardrails and the definite do's and don'ts, that's really important. Some people are so scared to like put a bunch of information in the prompt, but like honestly, the more context you can give in the prompt, the better results you're going to get.
And I have to add, because this does, and I found that when I give it too much at the same time, it drifts and hallucinates more. But when I layer it on, it gives me a better response. So if I said, again, I'm trying to be mindful of time. If I said, describe how this scenario, analyze this scenario, don't give it all the other, analyze the scenario, gives me an answer. Okay, then I layer in, okay, what if it's a woman? What if it's a historically excluded community and culture voice? What if it's, and then it'll give me the conditional responses that it wouldn't have given me if I just gave it this long prompt that was completely, I was like, that's not what I asked you. Like, what are you doing? You're doing the same things that sometimes humans do sometimes, where you're like, you ask question A and they answer question B. And it's like, are you deflecting by design? No, I think it's because it was coded to have an answer. So it's going off and assuming things that it probably shouldn't be assuming. But anyway, I just want to add that.
That's
you always
great,
say
Mary.
something that makes me think. Yeah.
Yeah, you're anticipating the questions I'm going to ask you, because that's exactly right. I had an opportunity to see you guys in action, a few months ago, and it's just like, it's almost like a two-headed person. You both, it's like you're complementing each other so well, and that's what we want to know. I'm not a project manager person, but I'm a person who does work on projects that take a long time, and they're sales projects for the most part. And what you're saying here is so important, and that training of models is something that's new to me. But what's happening, I know Steve Jobs talked about that if you just stay around long enough, by attrition, other things just fall off that are competing with you, you know? And so there's a lot of these models that are being churned out through vibe coding, and they're just not really, don't have any depth to them. So you're actually saving people now, because then we get to be people like you two, where you can put all this brain power into what you're doing because you've structured these AI agents to do exactly what you need to do that maybe took you hours before, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, agents are a huge part of our organization and how we do it. And we build most of ours in ClickUp, but we still have, like, we have all the, I pay way too much for all the, all of our different AI tools. But like, you know, the agents are really changing the game, right? Because we can actually have orchestration agents that are like taking something through an entire process, right? So this orchestration agent can go in and talk to the first agent, and then once that thing is done, maybe they need a human, maybe they don't. If they need a human, then we'll get a notification. If they don't need a human, it'll go on to this next agent that's going to do Y. And so it's really exciting to see what can happen, but there's also so much hype. It's unbelievable the amount of hype that's going on. And, you know, bringing it back to your original point, Gene, like, you know, we are freeing up time right now. We're also wasting a lot of time, like building these things that aren't really going to produce stuff, and like sending, like they call it AI slop, right? Sending this AI slop out, like, you know, producing all this stuff that gets sent to someone else and they have to deal with it. So, you know, really thinking about like how you're using AI and how you're enhancing not just your own experience, but your team's experience and the receivers of your services, like all of that stuff's so important. Anyway,
Yeah, and doing
went
the
on a rant
A/B
there,
test,
Meredith.
doing the A/B test and checking the results often and listening to feedback and adjusting immediately. Like, I think old systems, they move like cargo ships, right? They're slow to turn. New systems, they move like speedboats. They're fast, flexible, and able to change quickly. But it's up to us to give it the parameters that it needs to be effective and give us a result that is acceptable.
Yeah.
You know, before we get into the question and answer section, Amaris, can you inject in there how this save time, this efficiency, when it's done right, can actually contribute to better psychological safety in that work environment or in that team?
Well, I mean, the big thing that comes to mind, and it reminds me of a question that I got asked by somebody else in another forum. And the person was like, well, if developers have AI, they have AI tools now that they're using also to create the product or the service. And she said, well, you know don't we have a situation where now we don't have to worry about psychological safety because uh, they have all the tools to make it faster? And I'm like, no, we actually have to worry about it more, I would say, because we need to instill trust in the project teams. We need to be able to have them to have enough trust to be able to raise whatever ideas they have about what might be able to work more efficiently and more effectively, to be able to ask the hard questions that maybe people don't want asked because it makes them uncomfortable. To be able to make mistakes and not get in trouble for making those mistakes, but look at it as like, what did we learn from that situation? So I think that even, and maybe I didn't answer the question directly, but it's just something that's heavy on my heart, which is because we have the tools that are taking up, that are giving us more time, we need to be able to provide even more psychological safety to the teams that we manage and the stakeholders that we lead, so that they can raise those flags and bring up those brilliant ideas and make mistakes without feeling like they're being penalized. So that's just my
You know,
take on that.
that's something that's very powerful, because there's going to be generation gaps where people are intimidated by this technology that's brought in, and they're going to be scared to probably contribute because they don't know if they what they don't know. So, like, to your point, how can leaders, project management leaders, keep everything psychologically safe? So, like, a person like me who's Gen X, and I've got, a boss who's a young millennial who is just brilliant. How can I still, like, stay engaged with all this new tech and new processes?
Yeah, I mean, I think psychological safety is not something that you give. I think it's a system. And
Hmm.
how can leaders help with some of that? Establish processes within the system that make it okay. Have feedback loops be acceptable. If you're doing anonymous surveys, make sure that they're anonymous, that you're not on the back end, finding out who said it and then going after that person for being honest about what they shared. Reward authenticity. Reward it when somebody in a team says, I have an idea and I think that this idea might help it work better. Reward that authenticity. And if they fail, like, don't pull their pants down in public and make them feel bad about it. Have a lessons learned or whatever retrospective session you want to have about what did we learn from that and what can we do differently next time. Like, there's just, like, be a human being. And as a leader, if you make a mistake, own your mistake. Don't hide behind, oh, let's give each other grace, or that wasn't the intention, or whatever. Like, hey, I made a mistake. Hey, I know that wasn't my intention, but the impact matters, and this is what we can do about it. Like, I could go. I mean, I have frameworks that I could go off and off about it. But I think
Yeah.
that it's really important that we stop managing for comfort and that we manage for the progress that we want the team to make, and create systems where it's not dependent on one person. Um, like, if that leader leaves and the next leader comes in, there's a system already in place where they understand what the behaviors and the culture expectations are, and they're just going to continue to follow that process, whatever that process is, that provides psychological safety for everyone, not just one person. So
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Alex, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I would just love to like, just in the very narrow context of technology adoption and specifically generative AI use. I think it can be so intimidating. I talk to my in-laws about this a lot, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad I'm out of the workforce right now," right? Because it's like, it's
that seems to
so
be the
crazy how
sentiment.
fast stuff is going. It's crazy how fast stuff is going. And like,
Hmm.
I'm an elder millennial. I use the landline, and I use,
Elder millennial.
I saw all these, I saw everything come through. And I grew up with technology, right? So this stuff is like exciting, fun, like, just give me some more. Like, I'm ready for it, right? But um having the empathy and the understanding of like where everyone is, like, and helping bring people along the journey is it's so challenging. Like, we have five different, generations in the workforce right now. How do we manage that? And I think there's some really good techniques. I think like offering training, like, is such a powerful thing to do. Like, this, no one knows the right way. The other thing is, like, Mervis, to your point, like, owning when you mess up or you don't know stuff, like, is so important for leaders, right? And I tell people this all the time. Like, we're crushing it in the AI space, especially for project management, but like, we make mistakes all the time. We spend full days like building stuff that does not ever do anything, right? And so, like, creating, having people understand what that process is, and knowing that there is no right or wrong way yet, to manage this stuff is really important. And the other thing, this is like a very practical like thing that any company can implement today. And we host these things called promptathons, right, internally, where it's just like a hackathon but promptathon. And so we think about like our biggest business challenges, or like someone will just like say, "Hey, I have this challenge that I need to solve," right? Anybody got any advice about this? And so we will all like, get together, make recommendations, talk about automations, talk about prompt changes, things like that, to build new things that solve our business problems. And by doing that, that creates this environment where people can be honest and vulnerable and learn a ton in the process too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you get to crowdsource the ideas, and there's some camaraderie. And I love the idea of that. I've done that before with, and also adding the partner with for active learning idea, where I've been able to. There's not enough of me to go around to this large team, right? How do I train everybody? And everybody has a different learning style. Some people have self-paced training ideas that work better. Some people need an instructional person to lead it. And so partnering people up, like, so let's say that hackathon that you had, right? And people still have questions because some people get it and some people move a little bit slower, like I do sometimes. I have to pace myself. So partnering them up with, okay, Susie, you're better with this and Johnny's better with that. Let's get you guys together. And if, like, the younger generation teaches me how to move the tech, how to use the tech a little bit faster, and then I'm like, I can help teach them more strategy. So we make it work. Like
Yep.
They're like Alex's people, some of them are 3,000 miles apart, right? Working together on projects. So that, yeah, that's really amazing. So we
Hackathon,
have,
hackathons.
yeah,
I love
hackathon.
it.
So in the question area, Alex, do you see any questions that have come in
Yeah.
preemptively?
Let me I've got one here. So we had a comment, but this one's a question here. This one's from Paige. Would either of you have any tips for individuals to better sift through the false information when given by AI? Would this be better prompt engineering, difference in models, or is it just false information too embedded? Mervis, what do you think? Do you have any
I
opinions on
tend
this?
to this is just me because I love AI, so I'll take information from, first of all, my gut reaction is always like but I will take it from Claude or Chat 5 or Perplexity, and I always go back to Perplexity because it's supposed to be built on something that has more, I don't want to say more data integrity, but it's supposed to have more access to research and the latest in studies and things of that nature. So I will take output of one and put it in the other and see, okay, like is this fake information? And surprisingly enough, Perplexity has given me more to go back to either Claude or Chat or another AI to challenge it, and it'll say like, oh, you caught me, oh, you're right, that wasn't right. I'm like, this is hilarious. It's like the AI is almost like a kid trying to get away with murder. like
Yep. Yep.
so that's just some of the stuff I do. I don't know,
Love
Alex,
that.
if you have more advanced ways of doing it.
No, I love the dueling models, right? And within ClickUp, it's so cool because like you can actually just you can start a new search and just flip through all the different models in there. So it's got Anthropic stuff, it's got OpenAI stuff, and so you can just pop through all of them just in the same platform, which I absolutely love. Not to pitch too much on ClickUp, but that's one of my favorite features. So I think I love dueling models.
I need a promo code. I might sign
Yeah,
up today.
exactly.
The
Right.
AI addict over here.
Yeah, I needed at symbol Morgan Harris, our partner manager. Hey, just make sure that you saw this, Morgan. No, but this is a fun. So I have 2 points. One is funny, and one is very real. So the first one is so if you don't follow them, OpenAI has an awesome Instagram account, and today or this week they actually posted like an apology letter about the M dash, right, and how it can never not use the M dash even when you tell it not to use the M dash, and they actually built it into their model so that it will actually listen in the future. And you know, I joke about that, but it's a very real thing. I think these models are going to start to get better and better, right?
When
Like
you say the
they're
M dash, I'm sorry. Do you mean
yeah,
the
the
hyphen?
long dash that everyone's like, hey, if
Yes.
it has an M dash in it, then it's
Yep.
definitely written by AI. And I am an M dash like user since I was 14 years old in, in governor's school. So like I feel offended every time anyone says that AI owns the M dash. So anyway, but the point of that I'm trying to make, it's funny, but like it's real, is that these models are getting better. Like they're listening. They might not necessarily be able to fix the problem today, right?
Mhm.
But if you're able to give the feedback, right, and you participate in these product groups and stuff like that, like I think these models are going to get to a place where these hallucinations or these things or the biases and
Yeah.
stuff like that start to pop up are going to be more manageable. Like we're going to be able to put better guardrails on it. So that's one thing. The other thing I'd say is semi-related to this, but I think this is just like a practical approach to just working with AI in general and getting better results. One of the sessions that I was in at the PMI Global this week was an AI focused session, and they were talking about, you know, basically, let's say, for instance, I think a lot of us are guilty of this. Like we have a talk coming up, or we have a blog that we're going to write, or something like that, and at the beginning of AI, we were like, oh, let's just see what would happen if we were like, hey, write a blog about this, or give me a 45-minute slide deck for Y, and then we'd get that, and then we'd work with it, right? And the problem with that is that about 85% of all the content that you generate by the end is anchored in that very first thing that's created, right? So you only have 15% of improvement ever, right? And if you instead do the creative stuff, the thing, our special sauce as humans, right, is our creativity, the new thoughts, right? Like, who cares? Like, why do we want to read another blog that's a compilation of all these other blogs that were written by
Right.
these other AI things, right? We don't, right? So how do we pull these like great ideas out of our heads, put that framework there, and then have AI iterate on top of that? And I think if you take that framework of like creating the bulk of the creativity on the front end and then use AI on the back end, I don't think you're going to get these hallucinations and like bad results from the prompts and all of that stuff. So
Yeah,
That
and
goes
another
to your
thing that
layering, right? Amaris, your layering
yeah,
that
the
you
yeah,
refer
layering,
to.
yes. Don't overwhelm it. Just give it your I like it's almost like being a person who creates the requirement specification, right? The more specific we are, we have imagination. AI doesn't have the imagination that we have, at least not yet. But anyway, so we have this idea, right? And we prompt it with our spec, and we want when it gives us something back. And this goes to Paige's question too, right? It gives me something back. I sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm gonna act like I'm a teacher in middle school, and I'm like, how did you come to that answer? Like I'll prompt it back, and I say, explain your reasoning for how this output, came to be. How did you come to this determination? And it starts to give me information where I'm like, that's an assumption that it made that it shouldn't have made, that I have to go back, just like in project management, we have to validate the assumption. Is it true or false? Right. So doing those kinds of things, I think, is really important to make sure that we're working with it the same that we would if it was an intern, if it was a very intelligent intern. Right. I've had interns in multiple places where they're really super bright, and then they've explained their logic, and their logic either changes my position because they made me think of something that I didn't think of, or I educate them on why their logic was based on a false assumption.
That's great. So, Paige, that was a wonderful question. What else do you see in there, Alex?
I think that's the only main question in the Q&A.
Well, that
And
question
I think
was
there were some
waiting.
folks who had a hard time getting in. I don't know if they had a wrong link or anything like that, but I got a few messages about not being able to join.
Oh,
Um,
no, that's not a problem. They'll be able to get it later. But
yeah,
I'm
and
so
then we
glad
can
Paige.
answer. I can wherever we post, we can also answer questions there, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, like, as we wrap up on our live here, what are some final statements that we can give to people who joined because they want to remain relevant? I'll start with you, Amaris. What are some final wrap up points that you think you can use as bullet points or in your own style?
I would to think like introducing AI into project management, like giving the team a self-driving bulldozer that gets smarter and smarter every day. So the real work isn't watching it move dirt faster. The real work is teaching the driver, the human leader, how to choose the right land, purpose, build fair, safe roads, judgment and ethics, and adjust the route when the terrain shifts, agility and collaboration. So I was trying to have a metaphor for each of those things. And otherwise, the bulldozer won't build a community. It'll plow right through one. So purpose, judgment and ethics, agility and collaboration. And obviously, all on the foundation of psychological safety as a system, not a heroic practice by one person. So that's
Alex?
just
Yeah. One major statement that everyone should hear, and I hope we can all shout it from the rooftops, like, AI is not coming for our jobs. Like, seriously, it's not good enough, and it won't be good enough for a very long time, right? As project managers, our secret sauce is the emotional intelligence, the ability to communicate well, the negotiation skills, the influence, right? Sabi Warwick said it perfectly. Like, he said the influence is the most important skill of a project manager, project leader. And so just we should all remember that as we start to dig on this. And the advice that I would give is the same that I give regardless of whether it's AI technology or anything else. Always be curious, always be learning, right? And if you always look at life through that lens. That's what I tell my kids. That's what I tell my colleagues. That's what I tell myself. I have it up on the wall right here. Like, always be learning, always be trying to get better, because none of us have it figured out. Right. So yeah.
Well, that is so true. That is so true. We look forward to this being available for individuals to view on the internet. Can you tell us, Alex, how that will be possible? How a person can see
Yeah.
this for those who are listening now?
Yeah. So if you didn't get to join us live, this will be available on our LinkedIn page, Tuck Consulting Group LinkedIn page. It's also available on YouTube, same thing, on our Tuck Consulting Group page. And then Mervis will have her Transcend and Ascend, Ascend and Transcend. She will also upload it on to her socials as well. So multiple places where you can go grab this.
One thing I love that both you do, you have clips of events you've been in or thoughts you have. And so I'm sure we'll be able to have some bite-sized tidbits of this that'll really motivate people that are kind of by subject. So I can't wait to see that of both you all talking. We can kind of adjust it so you're like side by side and I'm off to the side here. I'm off.
We'll see what the AI does when we feed it, how it decides to put us on top or a side, or
That's right. That's right. It'll put me to the side because I'm just the
90-second shorts or the TikTok version. Yeah.
That's right. So I thank you both for taking this time to really share these things. I mean, I've been in technology for a long time, but as Alex was saying, this is a new world. It's changing so fast. And I felt in this conversation that you guys have slowed it down, for all of us to grasp. There's many people who I'm sure are going to listen to this from different parts of the spectrum of technology, but the insights that you both have make you both leaders in the field. And so I look forward to more people not only quoting, what was it, this particular organization, Gartner, but they're going to be quoting Alex Tuck and Ameris Lopez. So excuse me, Mervis. I got to stress that, like America. We got to get that. If that name's going to get out there in the world, we got to get it right. So yeah. So as we sign off, we thank everyone for attending and coming, and we look forward to the next opportunity that we have. And Ameris, your hand is there.
Heart love to everybody, and let's remember to use the time that we have to prioritize human good.
So, like that message. I like that message. So, Alex, you have the final words, and then we're out.
Oh no, I just want to thank you both for joining me today. We had such fun conversation, Mervis. I could do this all day, offline and online, with you. I love all your thoughts. Thanks for sharing that, and thanks for teaching me. It was great to hear. All right, thanks everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right.